Hello, everybody. You're very welcome back to our YouTube channel, and you're very welcome to this very special video on the Massey Ferguson 100 series. So, most of us here in Ireland and the UK are mainly familiar with the Coventry-built 100 series tractors that to be seen here in Ireland and the UK. So, we're talking about models like the 135, the 148, the 165, the 168, 175, 178, the 185, and the 188. And these are the models that we're going to be chatting about here today. However, when you look at the 100 series, there are many other variations of these models were built in various factories throughout the world. So bear with me now. So you've got models like the 122, the 125, the 132, the 133, the 134V, the 142, and the 142A that were built in Germany. Then you had the American range, the 150s, the French built 152, the Italian built 154. There was also an Italian range of 164 and 165. There was a French 165, also an American 165, and an Argentinian 165, not to mention the Spanish and Swedish 165s. We also had an MF 180 from North America, the MF 184 that was built in Italy, and we had Mexican and French built 185s, as well as the Coventry model, obviously. A French and UK MF 188, and the final model was the MF 194 that was built in Italy, powered by the Perkins A4 248 diesel engine. After that, you had a range of 100 series crawler tractors that we'll speak about in the future. As well as that, there was other models like the 177 that we'll speak about later. So before we get into it, we're going to start off with taking a visit to the Royal County to talk to Rhys Kellett on a dairy farm that they have their 165 that's been on their farm since the tractor was new.
Okay, so we're down in the Royal County here today in the Boyne Valley, and we're with Mr. Rhys Kellett. Rhys, first of all, thanks a million for being willing to talk to us. Rhys is about 5 minutes from my home house, so I know him since he was that height, going around on his little pedal tractors, and we're here today to talk to him about the original 165 that they have from new. Rhys, just before we get into the tractor, just a little bit of talk about what you do here on the farm and what the tractor is involved in, and what your run-of-the-mill stuff is here.
So we're a dairy farm in here just outside Navan. We're all year round here. The tractor it's our only tractor on the farm. We've a loading shovel as well, but this tractor does absolutely everything that we need it. It's just been absolutely incredible for us. In the summertime, you'll see it rolling, it'll do some topping, it'll work the 4-rotor tether, and in the wintertime, it's primarily on an agitator pumping slurry around the tanks in the farm, or else it is on the generator. If the power goes, it runs our generator here, which keeps the farm going. So it's, as I said, it's our only tractor on the farm. We've had it since brand new, and we'd be lost without it. Just lost without it.
Yeah, it's very unusual to see this day and age, especially a tractor like this that would you consider a prime mover on a farm. Now I know you contract out all your silage and stuff, but you do rely on this 100% all of the time. Now I have spoken here. The engine has never been touched on this tractor. The transmission has never been touched, or the hydraulics has never been touched.
No.
Nothing other than maintenance.
Now, plenty of leaks.
Plenty of leaks. We did look at the oil filter, and I won't say when the last oil change was on it, because I wouldn't like to embarrass them.
Now hold on, the filter, but the oil gets refreshed.
The oil gets refreshed, but yeah. Anyway, look at I actually remember this tractor from when I was a child, because my uncle was a stockman here on the farm with you for I don't know how many years. Probably 20 or 30 or 40 years, and it would have been your grandfather that bought this new in 76?
This one was the flexi cab, and we got it in 76, and we got the Duncan cab in 78.
78,
so
right.
Two of them bought from you there, from Malone's.
Okay, yeah, well, it came from Malone's, Massey Ferguson dealer in Navan at the time. It is a Mark III. It has the wet brakes, it has no multi-power, and as you can see from the exhaust stack on the right hand side, it has the 212 engine. But as it is, it's used. You can see it's obviously not used too much at night time. No. Well, maybe just a little bit of lamping around the head. But as you said, it's been reliable. It just goes to show the work that these things are still doing. Now, all right, there's a lot of them that are just kept for show and for tractor runs and for hobbyists. But this is a large-scale dairy farm that relies on this thing day in, day out to cover all its needs, and it's a testament to what these machines are. I don't know if you bought a new tractor these days, a new 50 or 60 horsepower tractor with the amount of modern electronics on it, will it last 50 years in the Irish weather? I don't know, what do you think? You've got your loader there.
No.
Will it still be going in 50 years' time?
To put it into perspective for you, There's over 9,000 hours on the clock. I remember the clock working back in 95, 96. I was head and silage at that stage, and I remember being able to see the PTO speed. It stopped shortly after that, so God knows how many hours are actually on the tractor. But all we've done to modify it, we have 2 double-acting spool valves on the back, along with the tipping pipe. Very unusual, but we run an 8-foot Abbey trail topper off the back, so we need a double-acting spool, and we need 2 of them. So we've that set up for it, and it pulls it like it's actually very much overused in that we run a 10-foot roller behind it. The land around here is very, very flat, so we run a 10-foot roller behind it, and it's pretty much kills it now. And we run an 8-foot topper. We're running a 20-foot Crone tether behind it. We're running a new rock agitator behind us. It does everything. I don't see the need. When I was younger, put it this way, the 2 165s replaced the Zetters that were here before I was born. As the years went on, we bought a Ford 7.6. I remember 719 AID. I remember the reg on it and the gears, first, third, second, reverse, fourth. I remember it well. It went on. 2002, we bought a John Deere off Timmins below. In 2006, it was sold with about 600 or 700 hours on it. That was all. The Masseys never went. The Masseys always stayed. And as much as we tried to modernise and move with the times, the Massey never left. And nowadays, we're so spoiled with contractors every direction around us that I just find that the Massey does everything we need. The cost per hour is probably negligible. But when you look at the likes of, so my loading shovel there in the corner that you saw, we looked at changing it last year. It's €22 an hour depreciation. By the time we put on any maintenance onto it, it's probably 25 an hour. Put a man on it, put diesel on it, put everything else. The running costs are they're high. They're high. This, I don't know what the diesel tank capacity is, but you fill it every second day.
And that's it. It keeps it going.
In fairness, they're an absolute testament to their engineer at the time. They're incredible. It gets nothing but abuse, and we'd be lost without it. But we bought this one in '76 with the flexi cab. The cab deteriorated over the years, and fair play to Bowles is over there, Bowles Hire. I said to them one day I was keeping an eye out for a cab. I could have bought a new C&G, fancy one, but it'd be wasted on me. And they rocked up a couple of months later with this Duncan cab. And so I'm guessing it was I'm guessing it was originally on a John Deere or something, because there's John Deere green under it, or was that an option? But either way, we just dropped it onto it, and she is what she is. Like one tire is grass and one is turf. It's But look, it's they're brilliant. You can go down to John Connolly, you can get absolutely everything you want for them, and they're just so simple.
So simple, But no, it's great to see a reliable one still working, original reliable one still working, still out on farms, doing what they were built to do, doing what they were meant to do. Look, that's it. We'll wrap it up with that. Thanks a million for your time. Thanks a million for sharing your history. If you were to not replace it, but if you were to get another one, would you buy maybe one a little bit more horsepower, 188 maybe? Or
I have a crazy notion. I'm mad for a 2140 four-wheel steer fast track. I don't know. I'm mad for one of those.
I know a man that could sort you out.
Completely. It'll be a luxury buy for me. It's not needed. It's not wanted. One of these years I'm going to buy a tractor. But when you consider the hours we're doing, that loading shovel is doing 500 hours a year. Our John Deere, when we had it as our primary tractor, was doing 600, 700 hours over 4 years. We couldn't possibly justify it. You just couldn't justify it. But because if you have a good contractor and a reliable contractor today that you can actually work with, and if you plan a little bit ahead, it's a no-brainer. And this does everything. Absolutely everything.
And it will for years to come. It will for years to come.
Might get a new bonnet at some stage.
A few headlights. Right, listen, thanks a million, Reece. It's been great to talk to you, and thanks a million, guys, for watching.
So it was in the late 1950s, early 1960s that Massey Ferguson decided to start developing its own in-house range of large horsepower tractors incorporating the famous Ferguson system hydraulics. And in 1964, the first of the Red Giants rolled off the production line in Coventry. So in the UK, the MF Engineer and Design Office was headed up by Dr. William Willits, and this was located at Maudsley Road in Coventry. In addition to draft and position control on all tractors across the range, the system incorporated an innovation in design and function which would enable the weight transfer principle to be applied to trailed implements and the trailer, and this was known as pressure control. Following on from the huge success of the Perkins Power 35X and the Ferguson 65, The 100 series will be based on the design principles around these models. The 35 will be replaced by the 135 and the 65 replaced by the 165. So following on from Ferguson's acquisition of engine manufacturer F. Perkins at Peterborough in 1959, it would be inevitable that the Coventry-built tractors will be equipped with the now popular and reliable diesel engines that we'd seen in the 35, 65, and how reliable and popular they have become with farmers across the country. So the first cab off the rank, of course, is the little 135. The 135 is probably these days the most loved and most sought after of all the 100 series. During its production run from 1965 to 1979, a grand total of 252,913 Ferguson 135s were produced. At the heart of this tractor was the fantastic Perkins 83 152 engine. However, there were a few 135s produced in Coventry, powered by the Standard Motor Company 4-cylinder petrol engine, but these tractors were mainly sent for export to New Zealand and Denmark. The 152 cubic inch, 2.5 litre, 3-cylinder, direct injection Perkins diesel had proven itself a reliable and efficient workhorse in the later models of the 35. The 135 was a fantastic little tractor to drive, with a comfortable, proud seating position and super all-round view. These were a smart and stylish looking tractor with bright red Massey Ferguson paint on the body panels, silver mist on the wheels and stony grey on the drivetrain. The 135 came with a full lighting package with Butler type headlights, rear plough and tail lamp from Heller with reflectors from Lucas. PTO and 3-point linkage was standard, as was a swinging drawbar. A differential lock was standard fitment. The brakes on all models were mounted directly on the wheel hubs and were the internal expanding type by Girling. The hydraulic system incorporated the features from the 35X, giving draft, position and external surface control, but also available was a response control quadrant mounted on the right-hand side down by the transmission housing. Another facility that could be incorporated within the hydraulics was known as the pressure control, used in conjunction with the MF pressure control hitch to aid traction with trailed implements. The 35 was also available with multi-power options, which gave 12 forward and 4 reverse gears. Several cab options were also available on the 135. The most popular here in Ireland was the Scirocco type flexi cab. Now, we did have a 135 on our farm years ago. It probably went around the mid-80s. It did go around the mid-80s, but I have really great fond memories of it. Didn't have a cabinet. It did have the rollover bar. So I do remember sitting up on the mudguard, arm around the rollover bar, going up and down the field and over the road with my granduncle and my dad. And the sound of that 3-cylinder Perkins engine, it was just so distinctive. You'd hear it coming a mile away and you'd know immediately that it was a little 135. Fantastic tractor to drive, fantastic handling. Now, I never drove it because I would have been too young. Fantastic, but I've driven ones obviously since. Lovely little tractor to drive, lovely seating position. One without a cab, flat out, is just a fantastic experience. So following on from the 135, you had the Massey Ferguson 148, and this was of the super spec model. So this tractor is basically an upgraded version of the 135, although it has many differences. The engine again is the same AD3 152, however it is built to S-series specifications. The 148 engine has a completely different cylinder head with a lower compression ratio, different valve seat angles, with a different CAV fuel injection system. The rated output was approximately 47 horsepower. Power steering on the 148 was now an option. The clutch is a split torque type, giving a truly independent PTO. For the gearbox, multi-power was standard, providing 12 forward and 4 reverse gears. Behind the gearbox on these super spec models, you had a cast steel spacer that made the tractor actually 6 inches longer in length, and this is a feature of super spec range, so they all actually are longer than their equivalent. This extra length gave more stability when mounted implements or on the rear hydraulics. On some models there was also an option of a creeper gearbox, which was mounted within this casing space. The PTO was independent and could be selected by a hand lever on the left-hand side of the transmission housing. Engine speed at 1684 RPM gave the standard speed of 540 RPM. The design and function of the hydraulic system follow very close to that of the 135. However, the linkages at the rear end were beefed up. and dual category interchangeable ball ends were standard, as was a high capacity auxiliary hydraulic pump on multi-power tractors. The steering arrangement was of a similar layout to the post 1971 135, as was the front axle, but was made of heavier steel sections. The power steering was an optional extra. Several cab options were available for the 148, and it's noteworthy that the cabs and cab parts from the 135 were not interchangeable with the 148 due to its extra length. So when you think of the super spec models, the fact that they're 6 inches longer, and when you take the frame for the cab, say the Scirocco cab, that big steel frame that goes around it, because of the extra length, that frame, the frame of the cab is longer, it's bigger. The door actually is wider, so you have a wider open space to get in and out. And a lot of people get caught out with this when they go looking for cabs, maybe off a scrap machine or something. One off a 148 is they're just longer, and then the canvases are different as well. So a lot of people have been caught out in regards to that. So moving on up in size now, and 1 cylinder extra, we're moving into the third model in the lineup, the 165. And to start off with, at this section, we're going to take a trip to Mayo. We're going to speak to Martin Barnacle, who has a very, very tidy Mark 1 165 on his farm. Right, I'm over here in Mayo today, just outside Claremorris, about 5 minutes outside Claremorris, with a man that I know very well, Martin Barnacle, my father-in-law. So Martin, first of all, thanks a million for going on the video. Just before we start talking about the tractor, what do you do here? What's your...
Dry stock. Buy in heifers and finish them. Buy them in a year and a half and finish them off to be done meats.
Very good. So this is your retirement gig as such, like you're long enough working. This is it. So just on the tractor itself, very fine example of a 1965 165 with the 203 engine. Has the round axle on the back, so it's got the dry brakes on it. It's a non-multi-power.
No,
non-multi-power, and it is one of the earlier models, the first of the 165s, and it is in fantastic condition. It's been very well looked after. How long do you have it, Martin?
30 years.
30 years on the farm here.
30 years now.
Yeah. So it is, as you can see, it's 49 years old, and you bought it from a local.
Bought it from a local contract. It was a small contractor at the time.
Yeah.
And he was using it for turning hay. He had a hay bob on him.
Very good, yeah. And I can see from the badge on the side of it here that it was originally a Scottish tractor, so it came from Massey Ferguson, Ison's Massey Ferguson distributor in Gentlesham. Is it Gentlesham? Gentlesham in Scotland. So what would you use it for? What do you use it for around here? What's the daily?
Well, I suppose mainly cleaning up at this stage, tidying up the yard. That kind of thing. It was used for round bales. The bales got so large in the last 2 years, they had to upgrade it to a 390 for just for lifting the bales. The 165 will do everything else.
Yeah.
Shaking fertilizer and all the rest.
Yeah. And it's on a transfer box
Yeah,
at the minute, so just for
nearly all the time.
Just moving stuff around the yard and just general maintenance. And but you have the big beast there around the corner, the 390 around the corner. Maybe when we get to 300 series, we'll come back and talk to you about that one as well. Yeah. So what, like, mechanical wise, have you had much done to it, Martin? What's the?
Not really. I had the head done there 2 years ago, and I had the set of tires on it. I don't know how many years ago, maybe 15 years ago. And the brakes done. That's all really. It doesn't really give any trouble.
Yeah, they are, like, for what they are for a 50-year-old tractor, like other ones that we've seen before, they're still going. I said before in plenty of other videos, modern tractors today, where are they going to be in 50 years' time? With modern electronics and dampness and air conditions, I don't think they'd be still putting in the shift that a lot of these tractors do these days. But that's it. Nothing else to add, really. That's it. It's a very fine example. It's got a cab, that is a Duncan cab. Yeah, do you find it noisy, or do you?
It sounds really dig it on.
It does the job. It keeps the rain off your head anyway. Yeah. But it is a very fine example, and it's very well looked after. And again, it's in its working clothes. It's a daily runner. She's out every day pretty much, isn't it?
Yeah.
Doing bits and pieces, and so that's it. Yeah, listen, Martin, thanks a million for chatting to us. It's just something else to add on to the video here on the 100 series. We'll be back here for the 300 series. So the 165 was launched in 1964 at the Smithfield show in London. The original model was a 58 horsepower machine with the Perkins 84 203 four-cylinder diesel engine and represented a marked step up in size from the 135 and the 148. This tractor was equally comfortable undertaking heavy tasks such as ploughing and cultivating, as well as light general duties around the farmyard. The Mark I with the 203 engine was easily distinguishable from a distance over the later models with the 212 engine due to its exhaust stack being on the left-hand side as opposed to the right-hand side for the 212 engine. Initially, there were some issues with the 212 engine when starting in cold weather. This engine was retrospectively called the low compression unit. After about 18 months, the engine was revised and became known as the high compression unit, although it's noteworthy that the compression ratio never actually officially was altered. However, the starting issue was resolved, as was some vibration issues throughout the engine by changes to the fuel injection system. As with all other models, the 165 was also available with multi-power. The steering on the 165 came manual as standard, but power assisted steering was available as an option and was frequently specified. Now, we have power steering on our 165, and I have driven it when the power steering wasn't working. I can tell you, you definitely you appreciate the power steering when you have it, especially for ones with loaders and that on them. The steering box is a worm and roller peg type, which has no friction losses, with the drop arm pointing downwards on the left-hand side of the tractor. Again, there were several cab options, the Scirocco Flexi cab again being the most popular. The hydraulic system was of a stronger build than the 135 and had greater lift capacity at the ball end. Category 1 and 2 ball ends could be fitted, and the top link was of the screw adjustable type. The upgraded model, introduced in 1971, had a lift capacity at the end of the lower links of 1,588 kilograms. The four-cylinder linkage piston type pump delivered 14.1 litres per minute at an engine speed of 2,000 RPM, and the relief valve was generally set to 3,000 psi. So like all other models in the range, if fitted with the optional multi-power transmission, the lift pump could be combined with that of the auxiliary pump to give a much enhanced flow rate to external services such as spool valves or hydraulic motors. The fuel tank capacity of the earlier 165 was quoted at 68.2 litres, but in 1971 it was increased slightly to almost 80 litres. Yeah, the 165 in general is a fantastic all-round tractor for both light and heavy work. It's reliable, and ease of maintenance makes them a firm favourite, even to this day on small holdings and for collectors and enthusiasts. In total, 171,441 Ferguson 165 were produced. And as most of you know, we have one on our farm. It's been restored. We're just waiting to get the cab sprayed on it. We have put it on hold for people who've been asking. I put the spraying on hold because of the weather, because of the dampness. We don't have a spray boot. So we just said, look, we'll leave it, we'll wait till the weather gets drier, and we have the steel all cleaned down and primed, but we just need to get the red paint onto it, and then it's a day's work to bolt the cab back on, put the canvas on, put the doors on, the windows. That's it. The tractor's finished then after that. And we will have another video on our 165 restoration when it's done within the next couple of months. So next after that, moving on up is the 168 Super Spec. So yeah, 168 Super Spec model. So I'm going to start this section off with taking a trip back to County Meath again to visit James Kerr of Kerr's Logs to have a chat about his little 168 that he uses in his wood processing business, his fire logs and such.
James, sorry no. Right, we're here with James Kerr. We're down in Carnaross in the Royal County again. James, your 168 there, we have a little bit of footage of it. Now it's in its working clothes at the minute. It's obviously not going to any beauty shows. No.
She doesn't venture too far out of the shed.
Yeah, so basically, look, it is what it is. It's a 168. It's sitting there on your wood processor pretty much constantly. How long have you had it?
We have it about 4 or 5 years, but it's only recently gone onto the processor there, about a year or so.
Yeah.
All we basically do with it, it's for the PTO basically. It lifts the processor around the yard there as well when we need to. It's 70 horsepower. It's probably a little overkill on the processor, but it can lift the processor drive it. But if you need to do anything, you have to go get a bigger tractor to process it. And it's handy just to lift it out of the way and clean it.
Yeah. You never done much work on it yet, did you? Reliability wise, did you get much?
It started first tip every time. Desperate easy tractor to start. A little bit heat on a frosty morning, away she goes. We did get the engine done. We done it ourselves there, relatively cheap too. I think $500-600 for a couple of bits that went into it.
Yeah.
And away she goes again.
Yeah.
Countless hours on it.
Yeah. So that's a 3.9 Perkins engine. Obviously, I think it's a 236 engine. So yeah, obviously bulletproof, like all the Perkins engines that's in the Massey Fergusons. But you had the tractor you had on that processor before, it blew up. So you're hoping the Massey Fergusons will do the same.
Yeah. Well, I do try.
Just couldn't handle it.
Just couldn't handle it, decent machine.
Yeah. I know. Look, it's great to go down and see it. Look, it's not, as you said, it's not a show pony, but it is a work pony. It's there to do some hard work. Like all the tractors that I've seen up until now, they're all working tractors. And it's great to see them being looked after, pretty much, and being put out to work and earning their keep. They're only going up in value, as I said. They're not going to lose any money, but they're making you money when they're working at the same time as well. So look, at that said, listen, the weather's shit. Thanks a million for giving us your time. It's good to see it working, and we'll be back here when we're doing John Deere's.
Yeah. Well,
So apologies for any sound issues and that there. I know it was a windy day and I just did not have the correct mic with me to get the sound perfect. But look, you could hear everything that was going on. It was a terrible, windy, wet day. But look, it's done now. It is what it is. So yeah, the 168 was introduced in 1971 and continued production until 1979 when 11,173 units were produced. The 168 was powered by the same engine as its bigger brother, the 175, with the Perkins A4 236 engine with approximately 70 horsepower at 2,000 RPM, maximum torque of 200 foot-pound at 1,215 RPM. The 168 was equipped with a single plate clutch at the split torque type, giving a truly independent PTO, driven from the engine via gearing through its own dedicated hydraulically activated clutch pack, which incorporates a built-in brake arrangement to quickly bring to stop the rotation of the PTO shaft and any machine that has been driven. So obviously it's a safety thing. You're shutting it off. If you're driving something like a wood processor or a mill or a mower or a hay bob or something, that it'll cut the power to the PTO straight away. So on the 168, the standard gearbox was the usual MF 6 forward and 2 reverse type. Multi-power was included as part of the specification. As an alternative to the standard gearbox with multi-power, the MF 8 forward and 2 reverse gearbox could be specified, which necessitated the fitment of a dual clutch, but the PTO could still be driven relative to the engine or ground speed. Like other models in the Super Spec line, the 168 benefited from the inclusion of the 6-inch spacer between the gearbox and the rear transmission case. So this gave extra length to the wheelbase and not only improved access to the cab, but also gave better stability when handling heavier rear-mounted implements. It also gave useful gain in rear wheel traction. So because they were longer, if you had a plough or a heavy implement on the back, they were a lot more stable because you had that extra length. The weight was out further out the front of the front axle to keep the wheels on the ground. The 168 then had optional cast outer front wheel weights and the PAVT rear 14x30 wheels. It was also standard with heavy duty front axle with the 3 bolt fixings per side. So if you notice the difference of the 165 and the 168, the Super Spec has 3 bolts bolting on to the axle. Like all other models, hydraulic services was delivered via the diverter valve on the top cover, which allows oil to be used to feed other outputs such as a spool valve block or a loader, and it also incorporates a return port. On the rear, it had a heavy-duty 3-point linkage as fitted to the 185. It had interchangeable Category 1 and 2 ball ends and is able to lift 1,814 kilograms. A differential lock, of course, was a standard feature, as were 5-plate oil-cooled disc brakes produced by Girling. The standard safety cab for these models was clad with a white flexible material, but in 1972, for an extra £50, a safety cab with rigid metal cladding could be ordered. The operator was well provided for with a spring suspension seat, full lighting set, rear view mirrors and air defenders. So moving on to the 175 and the 178. So initially the 175 was the largest tractor in the Red Giant lineup. The 175S and the 178 are really just evolutionary developments of the 175. Production of these models spanned from 1964 to 1972. And again, the engine used was the 165 and the 175 was the A4 236 4-cylinder Perkins diesel engine. The CAV injector pump was a distributor type with a built-in mechanical governor. The injectors and thermal start system aid were also by CAV. The fuel lift pump was by AC Delco with hand primer lever, followed by 2 fuel filters with replaceable elements. The MF175S was powered by the same Perkins engine as the 175, but the 178 was fitted with the larger A4 248 engine, which was an upgraded version of the 236. Quoted power was 72.5 horsepower. The 175S was introduced at the Smithfield show in December 1967. The clutches on all 3 models initially were of the same dimension and specification, whilst the 175, 175S continued with the 11x9 clutch. From August 1968, the 178 was fitted with the larger 10x12 dual clutch. Again, 2 gearbox options were available, a basic model with the usual 6 forward and 2 reverse speeds, and the multi-power system was offered as an optional factory fitment at additional cost. With the launch of the super spec models, of which the 178 was not in 1971, this led to the availability of an 8-speed forward and 2 reverse box option for the 178. The 175S was produced for a very limited number of markets, notably Scandinavia, and it's often wondered, is this what the S comes from? So if anybody knows in the comments, if anybody's watching and they know what the S stands for, I'm assuming, and most other people that I spoke to assume it means Scandinavia. So the hydraulic system fitted to these 3 different models followed in the same layout as the 165 that was previously described. On the 175, 2 options were made available with or without pressure control, and all were fitted with heavy duty category 2. The linkage pump was of the 4-cylinder Scotch yoke type pump, which gave a maximum working load on the lower links of 1,530 kilograms. All of these models were fitted mechanically operated double dry disc brakes incorporated within the rear axle, the trumpet housing adjacent to the transmission case. A parking brake was standard across the range, connecting the foot brake linkage, except for in West Germany, where the dual braking system was a legal requirement, even on agricultural tractors. So again, the cab design and manufacturer followed the same basic outline as described before, with only the very late 178 models actually being fitted with safety cabs supplied either by Scirocco or GKN Shanky. So it's worth noting that the 175 built at Coventry, but destined for export to Germany with the dual braking system, that was in fact badged as a Massey Ferguson 177. 178 model, it's often mistaken for a super spec model, as in the 148, the 168 and the 188. However, it's not. It's just an evolution of the 175, so it doesn't have that 6-inch spacer between the transmission and the rear end. Why they call it the 178? All it done was led to confusion. They could have called it the 166 or the 176. So yeah, the 178 is not a super spec. It often creates confusion. So yeah, an impressive total of 53,107, 175, 177 and 178 were built at Banner Lane between 1965 and 1971, while only 5,362 175S tractors were built between 68 and 71. So now we just have a very special giveaway. We have something that we want to give back to the viewers of the channel. So researching for all this stuff for the 100 series, I got a lot of it on the internet, got a lot of it from different clubs, a lot of it I knew myself. A lot of it came from this book here. So I've spoken with this book before when I was speaking about our own 100 series and our 165 restoration. And that's Michael Thorne's Massey Ferguson 100 series in detail. So I'm giving away one of these books. Now, you just have to answer a question. You're not getting it for nothing. So I never mentioned how many 168s were built. So how many 168s rolled off the production line in Coventry? I know. Do you know? Can you find out? So if you find out, Google it, do whatever you have to do, put it in the comments. The first 10 people with the correct answer. Their names will be taken. I'll put them in a hat, and in 2 weeks' time, I'll do a quick video and I'll announce the winner. So yeah, it is a super book, and anyone that is interested in buying it, it's only £13 or something on Amazon. If you're interested, I'm going to leave a link in the description. So go to the description, click on the link. It'll bring you to that book on Amazon. Now it is an affiliate link with myself, so if you do click on it, you will be supporting the channel. I get a couple of cents towards it, but every little helps. But it is a fantastic book. I don't usually recommend stuff, but that is a brilliant book. So moving on then, the 185 and the 188. So the last of the 100 series that we're going to be talking about. In 71, Massey Ferguson claimed that their 185 tractor was unbeatable for value and work power, and went on to state that there are plenty of exciting options, but the basic machine can supply more useful horsepower and performance for its price than any other 75 horsepower tractor in Britain. And that was quite true at the time. And that's just what it was. It was a powerful basic machine producing 75 horsepower from its Perkins A4 248 engine. All the usual equipment was available, as like other models, hydraulics incorporated, draft, position, pressure control, as well as external controls. The linkage was the heavy-duty Category 2 3-point linkage with interchangeable ball ends. The top link was screw adjustable with a lift capacity of just over 2,000 kilograms. The brakes were 5-disc oil immersed, operated by pedals or by the handbrake lever. The steering was manual as standard. The front wheels were pressed steel with detachable inner weights, and rear wheels were also pressed steel, fitted with 13.6 by 12 by 38, I think, 6-ply tires. Front weight, frame and weights but they were an optional extra. So the 185 in standard form was supplied with the flexi cab, safety frame, full instrumentation, ear defenders, rear view mirror, and a spring seat. For an extra £50, you could order a rigid cab, while the power assisted steering was thought to be a good investment. It would cost an optional £100. Now, they are a heavy tractor, it's a big engine up front, and power steering is a must on these machines. Available as an alternative to the standard 8-speed transmission of the MF 12-speed setup incorporating multi-power would have added £115 to the basic price. As with all other models, you could have more a versatile hydraulic system with a high capacity hydraulic pump, which would deliver almost 30 litres per minute. During the period of production, starting late 1971 and ending in early 1979, a total of 40,096 185 were built at Banner Lane. As a comparison, the 188 Super Spec model had a production total of 21,333 during the same time span at Coventry. So clearly it was a wise decision to market this keenly priced but somewhat basic 75 horsepower tractor that was the 185. So moving on to the 188 then. This is the last in the series that we're going to be dealing with. The track that I have a lot of experience with down through the years. From the 90s, I suppose, a neighbour of ours had a 185 with a loader on it, and it was a big tractor in comparison to our 165 at the time. Big 16.9 wheels in the back, but yeah, had a loader, very modern cab. Obviously 75 horsepower, 8-speed transmission, and it was a lovely machine to drive. And I drew in a lot of bales with it and used the loader putting hay bales into sheds and stuff. And yeah, it was a big lump of a tractor. So the 185 was the super spec. It was the most sophisticated model in the 100 series, and it was produced both at Coventry and Beauvais. Most of the UK production was sold to the home market or exported mainly to Scandinavian countries. Power for the 188 again came from the Perkins A4 248, as in the 185, rated at 75 horsepower. Like all models in the super spec range, it benefited from the inclusion of the 6-inch spacer between the gearbox and the transmission housing. However, the 188 also incorporated a 2.5-inch spacer between the front tombstone and the engine to give enhanced stability. So this was a long tractor. It was 8.5 inches longer than the standard 185. So the standard transmission of the 188 was the 6-speed forward and 2 reverse with multi-power. As an alternative, the 8-speed gearbox could be ordered, in which case the dual clutch was fitted. The hydraulic system and lift capacity was the same as the 185 at 2,064 kilograms. However, the linkage on the 188 had a different geometry, and it was revised to give extra lift. So because it was a longer tractor, it was obviously able to take more weight on the back of it. The brakes were 5 plates oil-cooled discs of 222 by 188 millimeter diameter, operated mechanically by 2 pedals independently or for field work or latched together for the road. The parking brake lever was provided, as was the differential lock and the power assisted steering. Towards the end of production, to comply with legislation, all tractor cabs were metal clad and faced with additional sound deadening material. Instrument panels featured a tractor meter, the amp meter, along with a fuel gauge, oil pressure, water temperature gauge, as the usual. The Beauvais factory produced a 4-wheel drive version of the 188 starting in 1972. This is believed to be Massey Ferguson's first push into 4-wheel drive manufacturing for themselves. So any Massey Ferguson up until that date would have had a third party that made the system for them. So this was their first dive into production of 4-wheel drive. So yeah, the output of the 185 from Banner Lane throughout the period of production, 1971 to 1979, amounted to 21,333 units, as we said, reflecting on the popularity with farmers wherever in the world they were. And that is the 100 series in a nutshell. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Obviously, they're one of my favourites. I will be looking, when we have our 165 done, I will be looking for another one. I am looking for, I would love a 168 multi-power. 168 multi-power or a 188 multi-power in fair to reasonable condition. I don't want a show and pony. I don't want anything scrap, but I do want something that I can take apart and put together and do a few videos on along the way. I do want to do one on the multi-power. But yeah, the 100 series, that was it. Obviously, they had left a great lasting impression on everyone that drove them, everyone that owned them. They're very, very highly sought after tractor out there today, and they will continue to be for another 50 or 60 years. So yeah, thanks everybody for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you got something out of it. Please share it if you can. Like, subscribe, drop something into the comments. Talk about your experiences with the 100 series. If you have any little bit of information you'd like to know. Obviously, there's a lot more I could have covered. There's a lot in that book. But I'll just be bored. I could be here for hours. But yeah, no, that's it. Thanks for watching, and I will see everybody again midweek.